Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today's webinar, where we will be talking about best practices in critical and crisis communications. The current pandemic scenario is a great reminder for many organisations of the importance of business continuity and crisis management. And we'll be exploring today some techniques and technologies that are available to help keep your people safe and your organisation productive, both in the pandemic scenario as well as any other crises that your organisations may face. My name's David Nicol. I'm the Managing Director for our IoT solutions in Asia Pacific, and a significant part of that is our crisis and critical communications solution in Adhoc. And I'm joined by Jeff Poirier, who's the Adhoc Sales Engineering Lead for Asia Pacific and Japan, who will be giving us a demo on the platform and capabilities. Just to start with, when we speak to enterprise and government organisations about some of the issues and challenges they face in managing within a crisis, you can group those issues into one of these 6 areas, and you'll see that come out as we go through today's presentation. And that starts with how do they better plan and establish readiness relating to incidents and risks within their organisation. How do they improve situational awareness, so capture information from sensors, including employees within their organisation, so they can make effective decisions relating to an incident. How do they provide response? How do they send alerts and accountability activities across their organisation in an effective and efficient way? For organisations that run events and other missions, how do they orchestrate those critical activities? When you're in a crisis, how do you share information securely in real time so that key decision makers can make the right decisions in crisis? And then finally, at the end of the event, how do you capture all information, be able to audit that, see what worked and what didn't, and have organisational continuous learning to ensure that your next response is improved? One way of looking at where your organisation is at today in relation to its crisis management is a maturity curve like this. And many organisations have some capability down the left-hand side here in providing mass notification, typically one-way notification to employees. But there's a number of other capabilities that we encourage organisations to consider when they're deploying technology to support crisis management. We're going to be talking a bit today about incident management with our new situational response capability. How do you establish plans and checklists and be able to automate the tracking of events during a crisis? We'll also talk about real-time collaboration. How do you establish group chats and voice between incident response teams? How do you communicate across organisations to related organisations that may be in the same building as you, maybe suppliers or customers? How do you predict incidents prior to them occurring by using sensors within your organisation that can operate much faster than a human can detect those events? And then eventually, in line with the rest of the Blackberry portfolio, we'll be looking how we use machine learning and predictive analytics to further improve your ability to predict and respond to events as they occur. To give you a real-life example of the application of this type of technology, a customer of Blackberry Ad Hoc today in the US is a county of about 1.1 million residents in the San Francisco Bay Area. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, last month they issued a county-wide alert to citizens, both citizens that had enrolled in the service as well as citizens whose phones were connected to the towers in their jurisdiction. And they provided those messages across a range of media to ensure the message was delivered, and provided a link for additional information, as some insight into some of the best practices that are available through Blackberry Ad Hoc. And with a scale of 1.1 million residents, we're proud of the capability that we can deliver to organisations like this county. So what are some of the capabilities that your organisation should be considering, and also that we have available within the Blackberry Ad Hoc platform? We'll be talking today a little bit about situational response, and that really takes Blackberry Ad Hoc from being a crisis communications platform to a complete business continuity tool that enables organisations to automate and to digitise their incident response plans and to establish out-of-band collaboration capability with their incident response teams. And when creating those plans can be executed with a number of specific activities, and those activities are reflected across the right on this page, which includes sending an alert so you can notify anyone wherever they are on any device, enable you to collect information from the field. So as the event is occurring, you can get up-to-date information from sensors or from employees or responders relating to the event. Enable you to account for your staff safety through automating an accountability event. Think of that as digitising the checklist you might use when evacuating a building, but doing it digitally, automating it, streamlining it. And then finally, connect, enabling organisations to share intelligence to improve their knowledge and response to an event. And as I said before, that could be organisations that are co-located with you, could be suppliers, contractors, customers that may be impacted by the same events as your organisation. And all of those capabilities are supported by real-time data and analytics. And you'll see some insight, and you'll get further demonstration from Jeff on how you can see delivery and response of messages or alerts and accountability activities in real time and enable your operations team or security team to respond according to that information. Being able to leverage maps and track employees on those maps so you can ensure that they're safe, and enable your incident team with mobile insight and enable them to take action while they're mobile. Now, I just wanted to explore the concept of situation response in a little bit more detail. So you may have a local incident management team similar to what you see here, members of your security team, your HR team, and operations capability, and building management. And they'll have varying involvement in the response to incidents. And an incident will start with an event, and that could be, like in the current circumstance, a health pandemic. And associated with that event, there'll be a range of information that will inform you relating to that event. That could be location, it could be guidelines from World Health Organization in the pandemic example. If it was a fire alarm, it could be the exact location of that fire alarm as an example. And that will then trigger an incident response member in your team to activate a response plan. And that response plan would have previously been created, reviewed and approved and captured within the Ad Hoc platform. And that plan will have a number of steps included in the plan that the response team can step through. One of those steps can include establishing a real-time collaboration group that is out of band and that enables the members of that team to collaborate regarding that response. So that could be feedback from employees at different locations. It could be the effectiveness of other actions taken, other observations relating to the event that need to be triaged. Part of executing that plan could involve sending a mass notification. Best practice would have that across a number of delivery modes, not only SMS and email, but to mobile apps or to desktop applications or to fixed line phones, as well as to public systems such as PA systems or social media systems, etc. And if there's any concern regarding the safety or location of your employees, to execute an accountability event, again, to automate that process and to turn what for many organisations today could be a number of hours to determine that all of their employees are safe, or to identify which employees need assistance, to the matter of minutes. So with that overview, I'm going to hand over to Jeff, who's going to take us through a demonstration of some of the capabilities in Blackberry Ad Hoc. Over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, David. What you're looking at is the Ad Hoc management interface. And this interface is going to be used by individuals who are what we term operators, or essentially administrators of the system. And those administrators of the system have different levels of authority to do things with the system. And that would include sending out notifications. And you can see in this main center part that I have what we call quick publish notifications. So these are pre-built message templates. And these message templates each contain a targeted message that also includes who are we targeting as part of this message, as well as other related information. And we'll drill into one of those in a moment. If you look at the screen too, I can see I have some existing live alarms that are going on. And if I hover over one of them, I'm able to see some details about this particular alert at this time. I can see that I've sent out how many notifications of this type I've sent out, how many responses I have received so far. And actually, if you notice down part of that, I can see the type of response. So our system is a two-way notification system. It's not simply sending out a urgent notice on email or SMS or telephone call, which we all support. So we send over multiple technological outbound message platforms to the people that you're responsible for within your organization. Anywhere from Office desktops to Windows desktops to mobile phones, iOS and Android phones could be the recipients of these messages, as well as more traditional, let's say, desktop or home phones would be the people that we send notifications to. So without further ado, what I think I'll do is I'll go in and show you the different kinds of alerts we can send. So I have here different types of alarms. I can send things about crisis or an emergency like a fire, bomb threat, so on. But let's talk about sending something that's the order of the day, like an urgent message about the current pandemic. Before I send this out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Edit, so I can make minor changes to this alert that's been pre-built before I send it out. And these minor changes could mean things like I want to change the messaging slightly. I want to change who I'm sending the alert to. I want to change what devices I'm sending the alert to. So very quickly, I'll show you that, kind of review this alert and then send it out. So you can get an idea of how alerts are sent out for the Ad Hoc system. So the interface is designed, like I mentioned, to be very simple. So you do not want something that's complicated and difficult to use. And one thing I want to point out too is I have this test button. Some of you may have heard of an incident that happened in Hawaii a couple of years ago, where someone using a different messaging platform inadvertently sent an alert out to the general public talking about a missile attack, which was not a good thing to do. So we're always going to send a message out after a validation and a confirmation by the person sending that message, and also providing an ability for you in building these notifications to be able to easily send test alerts to a limited audience. So you're not going to send it outside of the domain of your test group. This message contains this text information here. This gets converted by our text-to-speech engine into the appropriate message, so it gets delivered on telephones. We can also see that I can ask specific responses to be returned by the people receiving the message. I can include location information as well. And one thing I want to point out is that we support multiple languages for text-to-speech. So I could actually, I would include actual typed in French. I would use a French-speaking text-to-speech engine as well. So different languages are supported for messaging. The other key thing is to look at is I can target different users. When I target users, I could target them in multiple ways. By targeting users, who's the audience for this message? So I can have an organizational hierarchy, a large commercial organization that I'm targeting, and I can have the targeting information broken out by location, country, whatever makes sense. Many different ways to do that. The other ways I can do it is by a location. I can do it also by other methodologies and choosing other criteria about my audience, and that audience being the users in the system. And that could mean any attribute, any important information about that person. Maybe you want to send a notification to people that are trained to respond to like health emergencies, for example. The other key is to be able to choose the different technologies you're going to send this notification out on. And so that combination of who I'm going to send the message to and the technologies I'm going to send it to tells me how I'm going to target this message. And this predictive targeting ball makes it very simple for the operator to see, I'm going to send this out to these 5 users. If I click on that, I'm going to be able to see who those users are in a short period of time. When I go ahead and I send the notification, and those are the list of users that are being targeted, I'm going to say review and publish this alert. And like I said before, it's going to be 2 clicks to send out a notification, again, to prevent a mistake. And I'm going to go ahead and publish this alert. This alert is now going to be sent to all those particular individuals, and their phones will start getting notifications. Their desktop systems may get notifications, SMS and email, and we can see very quickly how those notifications are being sent and delivered by looking at the alert summary. And you see already I've had 4 notifications sent out, and then 1 person has responded. So this is going to update in real time and give us information about who I'm sending the alert to and under what technology I'm trying to reach out to these different people that I've targeted for this particular message. I have further details that are very important. If you have messages that you need to know that people have received, we're able to see what the responses are from individuals. Here, the person said, I am aware of the situation. But also sometimes you may have some need to validate what happened with a notification to somebody. So we have a way to report easily what was the full life cycle of this notification that went out. So I can show and store and export this information for analysis. I sent out this notification to these particular individuals. I sent it out on these different methodologies or modalities, email, text messaging, and so on. And you can see I'm getting responses, I'm aware of the situation, or not, or this failed to connect to this person's phone. So we can easily report on what happened, who responded, what their responses were. So again, this is really a key thing of functionality and capability we have when it comes to sending out alerts. We're able to get responses from the people you're responsible for and report on that information. So this is really important for, just think of the current situation. So if you want to be able to understand what the status of your work staff are, maybe unfortunately you might have people that you're responsible for, you're caring for, that might have been diagnosed. Maybe you want to be able to poll them about current health status and things of that nature. So that's core of our basic alerting capability. The other thing I want to kind of go into is that in addition to publishing alerts, managing different alerts, and providing a methodology to reach out through different communication methods, is we have what's called ad hoc account. An account, if you look down here, I have a live accountability event in progress. What an accountability event is, it's a different type of notification, simply in that it is tracking over a period of time what people's status is. So I can send out an account notification to the people that I'm responsible for. That account notification over time is saying, okay, I'm looking for people to check in or check out. Or it could be who's available for work, who's not available for work. So it can be used for things like polling, checking on availability, post, let's say, natural disaster. I'm trying to think of a mustering scenario. I'm trying to find out who's available after the flood or after the other incident. The other thing that's part of our account capability is that designated account managers or account owners can respond for others. So because this person and this person may work for me, that I know their status, I can respond for them. And so if I want to respond for them, I can simply select that and then change their status. And then I can say, okay, I know they've checked in. Think of that in situations where you may have a case where you have people in an industrial site, and for some reason you need to evacuate a building, but afterwards, like in most organizations, you'll have a muster point or some way to count for people that happened after the event. How do you do that? So the account module is designed for that. And I know David alluded to a couple other capabilities as well, which includes our situation response capability. Situation response allows you to take the alerting capability and the accounting capability along with our collaboration capability and build out a communication plan ahead of time. So for any disaster management planning and so on, you want to be able to foresee certain kinds of incidents that you may need to manage. Situation response provides the ability to plan ahead of time and also react during an incident to build a plan and a process to respond to different kinds of situations. This will include things like sending out different types of notifications over time. So if you could see here, I have, this is COVID-19 notification plan. I'm sending an early warning notification. So as we've all experienced today in the last 2 months since COVID has occurred, we've been receiving notifications, much of it from our own organizations or governmental organizations or our own company. Anticipating that, you can build that kind of communication plan over time, anticipating different things you may need to do. So I'm going to send an early notification. I'm going to send a travel advisory and travel restrictions. These are all things that happen during COVID. I can create new incidents as needed, or I can monitor incidents that have already occurred. So in this case, I'm going to look at a incident that is in progress. So I have a running incident that I'm managing here. And a couple things we can see with it is I can see the progress over time. This thing has been running for actually days. As you can see, I've sent out certain notifications already, and other notifications are pending if I want to continue on. Other things that I can include is collaboration, a session between different users that are part of the response that's needed for this. So for example, if I click and I click here, I can see that I've built a collaboration around this. This collaboration is relying on the Blackberry Messenger technology for secure chat. So basically, users with the Blackberry Ad Hoc mobile app can then collaborate with other users in response to a situation. And people could be on their mobile devices, or they can be, let's say, on this management console and be responding to this alert. I am fine, status normal. So from a situation response, you can build plans. Part of the building of these plans is a validation of these plans. There's a full workflow for getting different people to build and put their stamp on an approval process in building these plans, because some of our key customers insisted they needed not just someone to be able to make a plan, they need someone to be able to make a plan, have it reviewed, and then validate that this plan is one that's good to go for this organization. Think about the ability to communicate with the people that you're responsible for over time, being able to reach them on through different channels of communication. Many channels of communication are available to people today. One thing I wanted to show is I'll go back into this alert that I was sending earlier related to COVID. And if I look at it, let's take a look at some of the other means of communication that are possible. If I look at the basic alert itself, I can send it, I can change the content of this alert. I can also do things like include a map or a location. I can include a URL, which is saying, let's say, go look at the Singapore government COVID-19 website in this example. If I'm targeting users, I can also target organizations. So David alluded to this capability a little bit earlier, in that we also have, our platform allows sharing of information across different organizations. And what does that mean? That means after your organization agrees to share alerts with another organization, they have an ability to take an alert, a notification, and then share it with maybe people that have an important affinity for what your organization is doing. So it could be public safety in your area. It could be another business in your geographical area. But our ability to use our Ad Hoc Connect is a very unique feature that allows us to share information across different organizational boundaries. That doesn't mean that we will suddenly send an alert to everyone in that organization. That organization still manages what happens as far as distribution to an alert into their own audience. And the other thing I wanted to show too is that in addition to that and in targeting the users, we can also, I'll pull up a different alert here, and you can see that we can target other types of devices. So one of the unique features we also support is targeting to devices that are, let's say, non-traditional IP devices. And real quickly, that could be things like speaker systems, message board systems, airport information systems, and so on. So we've done a number of integrations, quite a few integrations to these kinds of devices. And I go down to look at mass devices. In addition to those kinds of devices, we can also target things like Twitter, Facebook, then XML feeds. So think of notification as more than just a organization sending a notification out to my staff through the telephone channel or the email channel, but being able to leverage other technologies to be able to deliver urgent notifications when they're needed and on time. And so with that, I think I'll pause and see if it's take it back to David.
The Ad Hoc platform is very comprehensive and has a number of capabilities that we touched on before: alerting, accountability, connecting with other organizations, as well as creating that plan up front. Blackberry Ad Hoc today is used by a broad number of organizations across government. It's trusted by a very large portion of US Defense Force to demonstrate its security and its scalability, up to more than 1 million users. Number of global commercial organizations, education organizations, including a couple in our region, as well as healthcare. And certainly recently we've seen a number of healthcare organizations looking for assistance in their COVID-19 response. How do they remain connected with their staff that may be in the hospital or in the community visiting patients? How do they raise issues if, for example, they have a positive test result, or if they feel like they need assistance in any way while they're in the community? How do they advise operations teams on the need for additional equipment, whether that's PPE or other equipment relevant to providing care to their patients? So just to summarize on some key takeaways for you to think about as you look at your current crisis management capability and some of the technology that we've gone through today that may help you improve your maturity on that crisis management curve that I showed earlier. think about how you could take what may be manual or disparate plans that sit in different parts of your organization and centralize, digitize and automate those so you can best respond to a whole range of events happening in your organization, and to enable testing, reviewing and approving of those plans so you can be sure when they're executed that the staff that are operating them can do so most effectively. How can you support multimodal alerting in the time of crisis? As Jeff said, not just SMS messages, but a range of messages to personal devices as well as public devices, IT systems, non-IT systems to ensure your message gets through. How can you automate and condense your accountability process so you can take the time to determine all of your staff are safe from hours to minutes? How can you consider the collection of information from the field? Now that could be sensors such as smoke alarms or gas leak detection systems in your organization, but it could also be your staff, could be your facilities or security staff or any staff member that may be in a position to capture situational information and provide that back to a central team, or automate those reports to be sent to the most effective team to respond, and enable users to be able to check in as well as provide duress alerts when they feel unsafe, and a very common use case for mobile workers. And then how do you create out-of-band collaboration capabilities for your incident management team? So when there is a certain type of event, you've got the right people collaborating straight away on how to best respond. And then finally, if you see some of these capabilities that you think your organisation can take advantage of, is consider a no-cost trial for Blackberry Ad Hoc. And in the current COVID-19 scenario, Blackberry is making available a range of our technologies for 60 days at no charge, including Blackberry Ad Hoc. And it's not just the provision of the software and the licenses, but we will rapidly deploy in as little as 48 hours a pre-configured Blackberry Ad Hoc service that we will host securely, that will give you the capability to send alerts with SMS, email and our mobile app to anyone in your organisation. And we'll include a set of predefined but tailorable templates, or you can create your own, just like Jeff showed you in today's demonstration. Plus, you'll get access to our customer portal where there's a whole range of collateral training videos, and we're running live online Ask the Trainer sessions so you can get up and running with Blackberry Ad Hoc quickly. If there's any interest in pursuing this offer or discussing further, please drop a message in the chat or feel free to email me. My email address is there and will be in the follow-up email to you as well. So with that, we will go to any Q&A. Over to you, Chris, on any questions that have come through.
Perfect. So we've had a few come through. So the first question, with the increased awareness of privacy concerns, is Ad Hoc compliant with Australian regulations?
David here. Yes, it is. And we offer a range of options for hosting Blackberry Ad Hoc, either through our cloud service or on premises. So depending on any specific policies or regulation that your industry may be subject to, we do that with a range of enterprise or government organisations, find the right fit to ensure that you remain compliant.
What are common crisis communication plan blind spots that you see?
Some of the key things is, number one, and it's kind of obvious, is that people don't plan for these things. well enough ahead of time, right? Some of the key things is making sure that you're going to know who you're going to be, who your audience is ahead of time. If you're going to spend the effort in planning communication before it happens, being able to have that information in a system that's current is important as well. So Blackberry Ad Hoc perspective, we offer different means of synchronizing data about the users, the audience, or I should say the recipients of the messages through Active Directory or LDAP and through HR systems and so on. So that's also very, very important. I think that's one that comes to immediate mind for me.
David, anything to add?
Yeah, just to add, we've touched on the importance of multimodal communication. So there's still many customers that rely on a single delivery mode and often one way, but demonstrated that or proven that different users respond better to different types of communication. So whether you facilitate that through a self-service so that users can advise how they would prefer to see messages, or whether you choose multi-modes to send to all employees and to give them the ability to respond like we saw today with 2 or 3 or 4 options that gives the best indication of their current status, or at least acknowledgement. And from a compliance perspective, one discussion we've had with customers in the current work from home scenario is you can provide users with policies and procedures relating to working from home and occupational health and safety, for example, but you may find it's also important to ask them to acknowledge they read and just to understand that they do, but also to ensure that the organisation is covered.
So another question that's come in, I think from partner as opposed to end user. What demo capability can we have as well? Can we get our own instance of the demo system like that was displayed? And what are the typical timeframes of getting that set up? For
existing partners or even new partners that are wanting to demonstrate this capability to their customers, we can certainly do that. So Rebecca Bradburn leads our partner engagement for our IoT solution in Asia Pacific. So if you want to provide your details, we can certainly assist you with that.
So the last question is, can the muster capability be used in non-crisis? Is this worth including an internal business case?
We refer to the offering as being critical and crisis communications. We have a number of organizations that are leveraging the technology for facilitating and managing resources. Great example is, again, with healthcare. We have healthcare organizations using Adhoc to roster staff, particularly, if they're short, they may be short of a particular skill set, let's say a pediatric nurse. They can send an alert specifically to staff that are tagged with a specific skill set, get a response. And then once a response is received for the required number of staff, the system can automatically send an alert to remaining staff to confirm that we've got sufficient responses. That could also be used in a police context for accessing specific resources. I mentioned before, could be in event management. If you've got critical activities happening around an event and you need to collaborate and execute specific plans and account for location of staff during the running of that event, may not be considered a crisis, but certainly critical activities that are important to your business.
And then one more question just come through. Are there any security measures in place for clients using this service?
Blackberry is renowned and very considerate around the security for our platform. So any data stored within Blackberry Ad Hoc is encrypted, and there's a range of security measures that we have in place that we'd be happy to share with you separately around how we ensure data is kept private and secure. Jeff, I don't know if you want to add any more specifics to that.
Yeah, so we're meeting all the stringent requirements for relevant ISO certifications, as well as NIST 800 certifications that apply to SaaS hosted applications, and providing secure connectivity to our sites, and securely storing data at rest and data in motion. So we have one of the things to sort of evidence of that is one of the key certifications we have in the US is FedRAMP, which is a federal government, US federal government, highly stringent security requirements that we meet, and actually have to spend a significant amount of money every couple of years in getting recertified for that FedRAMP authorization. And without that, we wouldn't be able to be, as we are today, the company used by all the armed services in the U.S. to provide emergency mass notification. So so we take that same level of security pretty much for all our hosted instances. In addition, some people may still want to host their core database themselves, and so our product is also available as an on-premises solution. Fully on-premises, where you would also have the infrastructure for the connectivity to messaging devices, and also a hybrid solution. So that would be where the core database would be in the customer's data center, managed by the customer, hosted on customer equipment. But the part of our solution that reaches out and makes the connection to individuals' devices would be hosted with Blackberry Ad Hoc.
So we just had a question come in around what certifications we have, and I think Jeff covered a lot of that. If there's specific certifications that anyone has questions about whether we are working on or compliant with, please contact us after the session. We can go through individual certifications.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So one last question was just around, can this solution be used for cyber instances or other business continuity instances as opposed to just physical events?
Absolutely. And in fact, cybersecurity incidents is a growing use case for this type of platform, right? And the scenario would be once something is identified. So firstly, how could you use the platform to identify an incident? And that could be receiving a report from an end user or a report from your IT team that may identify that. Now, you may have, again, templates or plans set up, as Jeff talked you through, that relate to specific types of cybersecurity issues and that have established alerts so that you can get those out quickly to staff to advise them on how they should change their behavior relating to that cybersecurity incident or an IT outage. So yes, it is a common use case, and again, those alerts could provide guidance on what the user should do or stop doing, could ask for acknowledgement, could provide additional information, could request users to confirm if they received a particular piece of spam, for example, malware. Yeah, lots of different options for dealing with a cyber event.
Yeah, just to elaborate a little bit is just sort of maybe not so obvious use case for a solution like ours in that case is something like what happened to Sony a few years ago, where basically the computing device within the organization needed to be shut down immediately. So you would say, well, we can send emails to people. All right, we have a list of people we're going to send a notification. Hey, get off your computer. There's an IT outage. They had no means of communication. So that kind of scenario, you don't want to have to deal with, right? So having a tool like Ad Hoc, which would allow you to communicate out of band from the standard corporate communication channel, from an authoritative voice being hosted by that company. Here's another way we reach out. At Blackberry ourselves, we use Ad Hoc. So any kinds of urgent notifications, it could be very local about a building, something happening in a building, or some kind of like police activity outside of the building. I had this experience not too long ago in my office at Blackberry. The key thing is that you need to have another way in, from a business continuity perspective, as well as IT perspective, how are you going to reach people when the IT systems aren't working?
Cool. Thank you very much, guys. That's the last of the questions we have now. So thank you very much to both our speakers. For all the participants on the call, you'll get a follow-up email, but also we have case studies we can share for applications through federal government across multiple countries, regional and local government, police, as well as multiple different industries. We're trusted across multiple countries at various stringent security levels, and we'll happily share more details of that. Thank you very much for joining us.